Every year, anime brings fantastical stories for their audiences, with incredible images and environments. But not on this list. Here, we'll see the worst beginnings of last year and make sure to close the door on that horrible year. Same rules as the last one, only the first episodes and only the ones I saw count. I almost saw Peter Grill after hearing how bad it was, but it's already been 2 weeks of 2021, and I'm still trying to finish 2020. So let's go. I honestly like the part about the producer trying to make her father's company keep going, but on top of that we have to have a mystery at the same time while they're trying to establish a harem for the main character and the X-Men are here. If they had tried to focus on 2 of those things, it might have worked much better. There are a few somewhat weird design issues, a bit of not so great execution, and models that are not too good, but the biggest problem is the story being slice of life that could easily be better and finishing on a cliffhanger. Feels like another anime made just to give fanservice for Monster Girl fans, but the fanservice itself isn't bad, mostly, and the Lamia at least is kawaii. Rikei Koi isn't fundamentally flawed, considering these characters are not the only scientists and could really just be very unaware of themselves. But considering the huge anti-science sentiment we have nowadays, I think it deserves a mention. I love the visuals, thought it'd be one of my favorites, and Ayami would be my waifu. And then the sumo joke happened, which suggests these scientists not only have very little notion of anything outside their own areas, they don't know their own intentions are factors and never Google it to check if there's been any such research. So it's pretty contrived. Gibiate has designs so uninteresting that the best in my opinion was the driver, just because the details matched. The girl is more showy, but not in a good way, and all the others are barely noticeable. It's a post-apocalyptic world so poorly thought out that not only she wouldn't have any way to keep her appearance, instead of zombies with a coat of paint, we have a single creature in the whole episode which they already know how to subjugate. After, of course, the warriors show they are incapable of dealing with it, and the highly trained samurai general says he needs a sword to be able to fight, and the driver knows where to find one, in this world where they would have gotten every weapon they could. Oh, and it ends on a cliffhanger, just to make it worse. It's a bird! It's a plane! Nah, it's a commercial. This anime has pretty weak designs. Even Gibiate has more noticeable designs, while the peak of design here is a side ponytail. The most noticeable is a creature from the future that looks like a broken statue wearing clothes from the 80s. There's even some okay animation here and a little joke that works, but these are the only positive things I can say. The rest is just tropes. The main character having a class he's not happy with is nothing new. The enemies aren't unique, but this would be just another half isekai if not for the start and the end of the episode. After a beginning of
I'm bad because I prefer killing goblins to go to the real world,
everything points to him not liking that world and how his class is at all, and then the group is attacked, and the anime tries to say he's
bad for leaving my mate behind
in a city where she's perfectly safe to go face monsters, while keeping her safe keeps the whole group safe. Yeah, this is an isekai that suggests the gamer is bad for thinking like a gamer, despite the situations they compare being quite different, since she's perfectly safe, and the whole idea of surviving the other worlds, validating what he wants to do. In other words, this is the anime for the niche that doesn't understand the niche of the list. No matter what, there always seems to be one of these. The visual execution is good, but nothing here was interesting to me. It's a battle royale happening without anyone knowing, with people with superpowers that fight each other to decide who stays alive. But the game apparently takes anyone in, so the competitors could be good or not. And no one knows about this game, despite being sent by Link. Wouldn't that be known? From the marketing strategy alone? People use weapons that could be interesting, judging by the utility knife, but that was the first and most interesting of all the weapons in the whole episode. And players get powers, but you can enter without receiving any instruction, and this will make the fight interesting somehow? On top of the losers dying in an unusual way, many people knowing this exists thinking it's street art, but no one noticed that people are missing? And our main character literally only wins the first game because his friend felt guilty for him entering the game. Honestly, it's not clear if he invited him or just couldn't stop the game from inviting him. And the second he wins, by being the special. The way he wins the second one isn't even that clever. Major Look is so basic. In Hyakuma, at least that strategy is realistic enough to make sense, while here, a student has to know about all this equipment because the anime needs him to know. This is another double-length episode that could easily have been half of it. Maybe if the first fight didn't exist, the second could at least have been more captivating, or if I felt the episode made any effort at all to make things interesting. Hachinante doesn't have bad visuals, but I find the premise really offensive. We're talking about an isekai where the salaryman at hand wakes up as an elbow, but has to handle the terrible dilemma of, gasp, not being rich. He still has a house and a family, but, gasp, has to eat old bread with soup. Look, I can see that for someone younger, maybe the subversion is a better joke, and maybe the industry is trying to use isekais better with these subversions. However, for someone who's been lucky enough to be able to support a family and has been through financial problems, this tiny imbecile just feels like a privileged dick. Oh, and if you were hoping that he was going to have to learn from that, magic. Yep. The poor little thing is the special. Oh, so this was a scare the episode wanted to give you to make you think it'd be less tropey, right? Nope. The main character spends way too much time making jokes about not possibly having magic for them to be funny at all, and on top of that, at the beginning of the episode, he's an adult using magic, just to ruin any notion of development and going home to 4 girls. Because we need to establish the harem even before having any story. Well, I gotta make money, don't I? The Kyo has H in the name, is an E, but would love you to believe it could be more than that. It's that kind of story that wants to talk about sex being good, but doesn't have the guts to do it. So stars! We basically have a character that uses his sexual energy to fight aliens, which is far from being a new trope, and a childhood friend changed because she's cold with him. And the friend being worried with her is okay, but the anime will imply that she acts like that because she had her sexual energy sucked by an alien and kept her emotions locked away. It's the guy calling a woman lesbian because she doesn't want to date him in anime form. There are asexual people, there are demisexual people, and more importantly, no one owes anybody sex. Even if it were someone who found you attractive and wants to do it with you, the person might just not want it at that point. And like Rikei Koi, this idea helps normalize female objectification. There's a huge difference between having a fantasy and saying every woman has to want it. The only potentially interesting thing for the comedy is that the main character destroys his clothes in order to use his sexual energy. Naked in public isn't exactly new, but it could be interesting. Too bad that by the end of the episodes, the opening shows they'll have uniforms. Yeah, so after presenting 3 more girls that are part of the organization, saying they have to live together, implying the harem directly, and making the girl jealous for him living with 3 other girls. Oh, by the way, they actually said there's no one else in the organization earlier. So, either only guys can use sexual energy, which is unlikely since she helps him defeat the monster of the week, or they simply forgot what they said. Yes, it's just another harem that thinks it's smarter than it is. Plunderer is a great example of a wasted premise. In this world, people have a number that goes up or down as they do something well or poorly, and people can't refuse orders from others with higher numbers. Though it wasn't clear if that rule is societal or from the Fluflupian demons that take you to meet the Ogdruja Hod when it gets to 0. In this beginning that gets way more care than the rest of the episode. Imagine this.
I don't know.
A person could be influenced being a chef, or someone who walks a lot, or someone who carries things. Any job or skill could be recognized and the societal hierarchy would be totally different. Certainly there'd be people who'd try to subvert the system, so there might be a whole gambling system where people use their points or something. This character could have this number for being in a terrible situation where he had to make it go down below 0. Could be for an addiction, for instance. But the second you know who he is, you know what the cliche is. And you know the worst part? The episode focuses on this character who's looking for the legendary hero. A military man shows up saying he is the legendary hero, wearing a white star that would be the mark he has, and there is no chance anyone thought he was the legendary hero the second he took her. He tries to abuse her as the legendary hero, she gets out of it, he abuses her naivete to take her count, and then says he'll take the last memento she has from her mom, a 10,000 point ballot. Whatever the hell that is. I don't know, maybe her mom killed a boss before dying? And that character is a pervert that tried to abuse her twice while asking for food and money, literally putting his hands on her. It's already bad that the anime treats that as a joke, but he is the legendary hero. I mean, I like the 7 Deadly Sins, and it's really unrealistic that Elizabeth doesn't mind Meliodas. But at least the possible victim doesn't seem to mind. I can turn off my brain a bit because he's not literally doing this to everyone, and she is saying she wants to be with him. It ain't reality, but it's not an attack. Here, she clearly does not want this to happen. Also, when you know the number of people he killed is what's on his sword, you'll immediately know that the anime is going to play that the almost 1,000 are people he didn't kill. To say the guy the chef said used her money for himself, puts his hand on women without permission, and clearly doesn't care about the others he abuses, he's actually a nice person because he's strong, but he forgave people despite that. I'm not anti-army. I know sometimes we need to protect ourselves because other people can be stupid. It's not xenophobia to want other nations to treat your people with dignity and respect. But I'm not dumb. I live in a country that went through a military dictatorship, and I, who'll be 40 in May, am older than democracy. I am anti-militarization because in this very city, we can easily see military police involved in murders and abusing their authority, especially in areas abandoned by the government. And this very moment, the president seems to be trying to raise his chance of a coup d'etat, controlling the federal police. I don't need an excuse to believe a warrior had to kill in a war, and even so, he can be a good person outside it. I need to hear the soldier talking about how the lives he protected are important to him, or how he would like to not have had to do it. This complete imbecile's behavior is indefensible, and I don't care how strong or how merciful he can be, he's a douche. I'd first think he found the sword after the legendary hero died by sheer luck, and uses it to this day to lower that number even more by abusing women. And all of that is just the story. I lost count how many times they break the chef, who starts with big boobs and ends with, "Oh, my back!" Passing by, that must be one of those prostheses to be that flat. And this anime thinks a person can easily use a sword to cut a sofa against the wall, and the sofa teleports in front of him and fills the room with dust instead of wool or something. In what world is this stuffed animal, which does prove they can draw wool or something, would be a good design? It's not just stupid like his mask, they have to make the stupids drool, so it's disgusting too. And these are the big visual problems. I don't think there's a single character here who didn't look broken in some form. Maybe this guy passing by who was barely on screen, and there it is. January 8th, the worst first episode of anime of 2020 went to air without knowing how much of a perfect representation for the year it would be. At least I can say that vaccination in Brazil is starting. It is possible to improve from here. Just don't let yourself be taken by charlatans again, like the one who heard the glorious announcement and wanted to say he had something to do with it. Less than a week after the Ministry of Health said it was inadmissible not to use chloroquine in Manaus. We need to be smarter. History exists to be known and learned from. Please, learn with the horrors from this very country or what just happened in the US. And don't let someone investigated for involvement with a militia in charge of the federal police. That take you to meet the Ogdru Jahad.